Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras at Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. Today we start a series on learning how both Republican and Democratic parties in Doña County plan to reach voters for the 2016 presidential election. We will hear from the Republican Party in Doña County in an upcoming episode. Today we focus on the Democratic Party in Doña County. Joining us is Elizabeth Rodriguez Johnson, County Chair of the Democratic Party of Doña County. Thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
Now I'd like to start off, what are some of your plans for registering voters for this upcoming election?
Okay, well, in Doña County, there are several efforts. One of them is the Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, which is headquartered in San Antonio. And several of the members of the Democratic Party are involved in that. Okay. There's also another effort being spearheaded by Doña County's County Clerk's Office, the Election Advisory Council, and I'm a member. We were at a meeting last Friday, and at the end of the meeting, the different organizations that were represented, Democratic Party of Doña, League of Women Voters, CAFE, those different organizations submitted their goals for voter registration. Okay, so we're going to be working with that group. We're actually going to be working with both of those groups. And also some members of the League of Women Voters are members of the Democratic Party of Doña County. But specific to the efforts of the Democratic Party of Doña County are the efforts that the individual district directors are initiating. Some voter registration has already happened in the different districts, and some will continue to happen. For instance, this Saturday, Orlando Jimenez, who's the District 34 director, is going to have a voter registration effort at Carlos's Bakery in Sunland Park. And that sort of voter registration effort is going to continue up till the time where the cutoff for voter registration is designated.
So events like that, and I guess the area festivals and public opportunities, you'll have booths there and register
Correct.
voters.
Yeah, we're going to be aggressive about that.
Let's talk a little bit about the Get Out the Vote campaign. Is there anything that you're doing to get people to the polls this year?
In my opinion, there has never been such a critical time to be involved in the political process and in getting out the vote. I mean, at the heart of democracy is inspiring people to get out the vote. What makes a country great is the ability to inspire people to get out to vote. Okay? We have to deliver a very powerful message to our Democratic constituency. That message being that, your vote is your voice, your vote is power, because the voting booth is the one place where you and the billionaire are equal. The voting booth is the one place where all of those that are eligible to vote are equal. And that's power. And when you don't vote, you give out your power. And if you don't vote and the elected official is someone who will not implement the policies to your benefit, then you not only just gave away your power, but the power you gave away is going to probably be used against you. That's a very, very powerful message, and we have to deliver that to the Democratic voters. Now, how we do that is also something that is very, very important. I was elected on a platform of getting out the vote. What the structure we had before I was elected was basically Democratic candidates are out there on their own, and they're responsible for motivating, for doing everything necessary to get their voters, the voters they need, to the polls. Okay, that's fine. But we, as the Democratic Party, can do a lot better than that. We can support each and every single candidate by doing as much community organizing as possible. And we do that by individualizing every district. All districts are different, and we can't treat them the same. What works in one district is not going to work in others. So I have encouraged all the district directors to specialize their plan, to focus their plan on what is going to motivate their district. Now, at the heart of that are community events that we're going to be sponsoring, probably starting around the March timeframe and all the way up to Election Day, and several events within each district where we bring in elected officials who deliver that powerful message of your vote is your voice. Don't give it away, because when you do, it could be used against you. Get out there. It's worth it. Democracy isn't easy, but it's worth it. Okay, because we're convinced within the Democratic Party of Doña County that we have to win this one community at a time. We can't hold these big events and expect, all the communities to come out. The problem is when you do that, and only that, the people that come out are the people that are going to come out to vote anyway. So we have to reach into the communities and just make it easy for those community members to come out and hear their elected officials or whomever else we can get to those events, who can inspire the voters. But that's and it's although it's a very direct, a very straightforward approach, the reason it isn't done as much as it should be is because it's very, very labor intensive.
I see. Well, I mean, one of the things that may aid that effort or help facilitate it is technology. And at each election, it seems like it always is advancing. Do you have any special social media approaches or ways you use technology to really reach the voters?
Well, we have an excellent communications director, Mr. Steve Jones, who is very proficient in all of that. We have a very, very good website, which he keeps updated. And we are going to use social media to the extent possible. But I have to tell you, Anthony, that this is it's a poor state, it's a poor county. And we're going to have to find other ways of reaching people who don't have those resources.
So you mean like the digital divide or something like that
Sure.
maybe the state may be experiencing? Well, here in Doña County, you don't have to go very far to be in a rural area or an underserved area. What are some of the efforts you have in store to plan to reach those potential voters?
Well, through what I just described, these community events. Each district director knows, the different communities. For instance, District 39 has a split personality. You've got the Picacho Hills area, and then you've got Rhodey, Hatch, Rincon, the colonias. And so I dare to say that, the Picacho Hills area could probably be reached through social media and electronics, devices, whatever that would entail. But then you've got some of the poorer, more rural areas that are going to require more direct approaches, door knocking, etc., things like that. But as we hold these events, and like I said, they have to be consistent. As we hold these events and we reach more people, we hope to start building a cadre of volunteers, if you will, who can help us reach those rural areas that are more difficult to reach. I mean, in 2012, when I was involved with a friend of mine who was running for judge, and we did door knocking in Chaparral. Oh my gosh, that's difficult. That's very difficult. A lot of loose dogs, you have to take all those things into account. And so as we gain momentum and are able to recruit more and more volunteers, we'll be able to reach out that way, one-on-one, directly to those members of the community that don't have the resources,
I see. You brought up 2012. One of the things that happened in 2012 that was kind of different than many years was, in most years, you have a high voter turnout in the presidential years. 2008 had a major turnout. 2012, another presidential year, the turnout actually dropped compared to 2008. What do you make of that?
Well, my opinion and what I take away from that is that more and more voters are feeling disenfranchised. They're feeling like their vote doesn't matter. Despite you had events, like Gore losing the presidential election by 300 votes or so. Despite that, the individual thinks, well, here in Doña County, my vote doesn't matter. The regular politicians are going to be elected anyway. So we have to counter that with our message, and we have to be aggressive, because with areas like the university's vote was 15, not 15. We can't allow that to stand. And this is a Democratic state. It's a Democratic county. That's a wealth of voters right there. And like I said, some of the lower socioeconomic areas tend to vote in very low numbers because they tend to be those that are feeling disenfranchised and feeling like their vote doesn't matter. And those are really the votes, the people, the audience, the Democrats that we have to go after most aggressively.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the candidates. And, as you know, this seems to be the year so far of the non-traditional candidates. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are polling well for the Republicans, and Bernie Sanders is gaining momentum for the Democratic nod. What do you make of that?
Well, once again, my opinion is that because voters are feeling so disenfranchised and because they're feeling their vote doesn't matter, they're associating those feelings with the establishment candidates, the traditional candidates. And so they're looking for candidates that offer them quicker, more direct, easier solutions to those things that they feel are negatively impacting their lives. And so, I believe that the phenomena that is Donald Trump is capitalizing on those feelings, and selling medicine man potions that aren't real. You can't build a wall and expect Mexico to pay for it. And I'm astounded by how many people actually accept that as a solution, not because I disagree entirely with building a wall, but because I can easily see how something like that isn't feasible and practical. but yet there's a huge amount of people who accept that. And I think it's because they're tired. They're tired of feeling like their vote doesn't matter. They want somebody in there who's going to...
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, do you feel that political leaders have underestimated the frustration of the voters?
Oh, you know, it's been a very, very difficult 8 years for President Obama because he inherited such a mess in the economy and in other areas. And I think it's not so much that political leaders underestimated the frustration, because I mean, for instance, here in Doña County, in the state of New Mexico, we are 49th in child poverty. These are Bureau of Labor Statistics. We are 49th in child poverty, 48th in overall poverty, 50th in graduation rates, and we have an unemployment rate of 6.8%, the highest in the nation. Okay, so getting back to your question, though, you said, have they underestimated? I don't think it's as much a matter of underestimating as not doing enough about that.
Well, what are some of the things that you feel that the Democratic Party here in Doña County can do to really address those issues?
Well, we can take back the House because it's a Republican dominated, Republican-controlled House. We can put a Democratic governor. You know, it's not going to happen for another few years, but we can elect a Democratic governor. And I think Democrats would be more sensitive to the issues of the lower socioeconomic population here in this state. But we have to get the message out. We cannot, you know, and we have to do it as a party. We cannot rely just on the candidates to do that for us. We have to do as much community organizing as possible, because the only way we're going to win this, you know, at the risk of repeating myself, the only way we're going to win it is one community at a time. Every community is different, and we've got to have people in charge, district directors who know that, who understand it, and who are ready to do whatever it takes within that community to motivate the community to vote.
Let's talk a little bit about campaign finance reform. I've seen and read things that say that this presidential campaign could cost over $1 billion. Mm-hmm. I've seen things up to $5 billion. How much do big donations influence policy, and can you speak on any specific examples?
Well, big money, or some people call it dark money, has a huge impact, a significant impact on you know, on elections. And of course, the more TV ads, the more radio ads, the more billboards you can buy, the more people are going to see your message, whatever that message is. So, having said that, and that is the reason why I said there is not a more critical time than right now to get involved as a citizen in politics, and to get involved in getting out the vote. Because I believe our democracy hangs on the balance right now. You know, we're on the verge of having big money influence, and I believe, my opinion, influence elections negatively. Okay, the way to counter that, and it's been proven, we've done it here in Doña County. I'm extremely proud to say we've done it here in Doña County. The way to counter that is through community organizing and through informing the general public of what's really going on. An example of that, was the recall. You know, a lot of money was spent in
You're
trying.
speaking here locally in
Yes,
Las
sir.
Cruces.
In a city council, the city council recall. A lot of money was spent in trying to recall Olga Pedrosa, Gil Sork, and Nathan Small, because they were pro minimum wage, and a lot of money was spent trying to recall them. And the citizens of Las Cruces, when they got a wind of that, organized and fought that recall, and they won. You know, they fought big money and they won. That's the only way you're going to counter big money, is through organizing your community, telling the voters what's going on, and executing, you know, a plan as good as possible. And you know, and a lot of big money was spent in the last city council elections as well. And the candidates that won were not recipients of that money, but they were recipients of well-organized community efforts to inform the people of, you know, who they were. And that's what I hope that we can do here in 2016.
But do you think that we're going to see a presidential campaign raise quite a bit over $1 billion, or need to capture the White House this year?
Yeah, I hear it's close to $1 billion already. So I would not be surprised at all. You know, I think, and it's been a while on the morning news or on the evening news, they said it's like 780 million already is expected to be spent on the president. That's horrendous. I mean, that's.
Well, we spoke of big money. You know, what about small money? Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has been doing pretty well with raising that in smaller donations.
Right.
Should he capture the Democratic presidential nod, do you see the campaign being about which party can better define socialism?
Oh, no. No, I don't. What I see that as, I mean, this was the same thing that gave Obama his strength, because he was, when the majority of your money comes from smaller donations, it means the majority of the community is listening to you and will be voting for you. Smaller pockets of money mean better organized communities. I don't think, should Bernie Sanders win the nomination, it's because he's done a better job of getting his message across to the majority of the people. And, you know, some of his message does consist of socialist ideology, but not his entire message isn't that way. So,
I'd like to get your thoughts about primaries. And in New Mexico, obviously, we've experienced a low voter turnout. There's been talk about opening up the primaries, which are now closed, to their respective parties. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that that could help improve the voter turnout here in New Mexico?
what do you mean opening primaries to the respective?
From being closed.
You mean right now the primaries are open only to those that register as Democrats,
Yes.
register as Republicans?
And opening, how do you feel about opening those to independent voters?
Oh, you know, there's many other states that have open primaries, and as a citizen, I agree with that. You know, I think we should have open primaries. I don't think that we should close our primaries just to those that, you know, register in a particular party.
Let's talk a little bit about how you plan on reaching the next generation of voters. What is the party, Democratic Party here in Doña County, doing to reach out to voters of the next generation?
If by next generation you mean like the
Next political leaders.
the NMSU population?
Perhaps. Could be, or just the population here in Doña County.
Well, we are bringing, a lot of our new members are the younger members. And just to give you a prime example, the district director for District 36, I nominated her, and she was elected a couple of months ago, is all of 18 years old. Stephanie Hernandez is her name. And she's very energetic, and we would like to project that as a part of the Democratic Party. You know, we want to welcome as many young voters as possible. You know, I see her as the face of the Democratic Party in the future. You have several studies have shown that the younger voters tend to lean Democratic, tend to have more liberal views and have more liberal perspectives. So, as I said earlier, that's a wealth. The population, the Democratic population here at New Mexico State is, you know, is a huge pool of Democratic voters that we should be tapping, and we will. We're going to go after them aggressively, but we're also going to open up the Democratic Party to, you know, as many young people as possible, open to their ideas, open to their perspectives.
Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome.
All right, we want to thank you for joining us here on Fronteras at Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno.